I'm already losing the will to live.
We'll talk about that.
It's dark down here. It's quite... Hello and welcome back. My name is Ian J. Cole, and if this is the first time you've been here, this is a series of videos about how to start a UK record label. Now this is video number 14, and this one is about PPL. PPL stands for Phonograph Performance Limited, and they are an organisation that collects royalties, very similar to PRS. So what is the difference between PPL and PRS? Both collect royalties. If you are a venue or a shop or a factory or an office, you will need a licence from both. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna delve into this minefield that is copyright and licensing. But in this video we are going to stick to the PPL part of the equation. But I have got a short video that I found, which is a joint video between PRS and PPL, and we're going to work through that. So let's start that now.
Music is such an important part of my business.
It was easier than I thought finding out what licence we needed by law, or if indeed we needed more than one to play music here.
Because my business is also a public place.
The law protects music rights in different ways. This means businesses and organisations playing recorded music in public will usually need to obtain a licence from both PPL and PRS for music.
I'm going to stop it there. The reason I'm going to stop it there is that I think it's Laura Laverne doing the voiceover, so she wasn't cheap. They said usually a business has to have a PRS and a PPL license. That's not true. What we do in our retail business, Pocklington Music, is we have a license to play music in the shop from a company called Jamendo. Now, Jamendo license. Now they have an online radio station that you can play without obviously a DJ. It just plays, and you can play different types of music depending. So at Christmas time, they'll have a radio program that just plays Christmas music. We never really bothered with that. The other thing you can do is you can download all of the files and play them offline. We run them from an MP3 player with a pair of speakers. And we pick the music that we want to play. It's usually classical or ambient or that type of music. But they have 220,000 royalty-free tracks. So that basically means that if you're an artist, you can send your music to Jamendo, and you will then get paid a percentage when somebody buys a license. Now, I'm going to get on to what the licenses costs of PPL and PRS, because they're not insignificant, especially for a small business. But a license for a small business from Jamendo is no more than €50, £50 a year. I think the next year for Pocklington Music will be £43. I'd need to double check that, but certainly less than £50. Now, that doesn't buy you half a license from PRS or PPL. So a PRS license, let's cover this now while we're thinking about it. A PRS license, and I I struggled to find this information on the PPL and PRS website, but I did find it, and I'll put the links in the show notes down below. So a license for PPL first of all. Now we know we need, in theory, we need both of them. And for the smallest size venue, which is up to I think 600 square feet, the license will cost you £142.87 a year. And obviously, once you get above 600 square foot of whatever your venue is, it goes up, and there'll be other licenses for where you've got music performances, so clubs and pubs pay more. So it's not an insignificant amount. Plus, you've also got the same sort of thing for PRS. The PRS license, when I find it, the PRS license for this, so they run their cheapest license, and they have two rates. The cheapest license is up to 100 square meters, and a standard rate will cost you £173.80 a year. So that's over £300 for the smallest license for both of these organisations.
The difference between the two is simple. PPL collects and distributes royalties on behalf of performers and record companies for the use of their recorded music.
So that means that if you play on a track, you should register that track with PPL, because you should, in theory, get some royalties. I'm going to come back to the royalty issue. Let's carry on.
PRS for Music collects and distributes royalties on behalf of songwriters, composers and music publishers for the use of their musical compositions and lyrics.
Right, so PRS is purely and simply for the songwriter or the composer or the publisher, and PPL is for the performer or the record company. I have to say, I've never had a payment from PPL in 10 years. I have had payments from PRS as a composer. They're sporadic, but there again, I'm not writing hit singles, but I have had PRS royalty statements of £300-400 occasionally, and that's per quarter. They distribute these royalties per quarter, but I've never had one from PPL. Which does beg the question, where's the money going? But anyway, we'll come back to that.
By obtaining licenses from PPL and PRS for Music, you can enjoy the benefits of using music in your business without having to seek permission individually from all these thousands of people, who in turn get the opportunity to be paid fairly for their work.
Being paid fairly for their work. I'm not so sure that it is that fair, because like I say, I've never had a payment from PPL, and I do know for sure that I've had my music played in restaurants, because I remember being sat in a restaurant with my wife one day, and I went off to the toilet and came back. She says, "They've just played your song from Catering the Questions," and then she was so convinced, and I didn't hear it because I was in the loo and it wasn't playing in the loo. She was so convinced that she went up and asked them where the music had come from, and they were playing some radio station. And I do know that I've had music played on radio fairly regularly in the past, and that's where I've had payments from PRS. So I've had payments from PRS. And from I think Jazz FM was one of the radio stations. Radio 1 Extra also played some of my music. You would have thought at the same sort of time that I got those royalty payments from PRS that I should have had royalty payments from PPL as a performer, but that didn't happen. But I'm not so sure that all of the revenue is getting to the right people. Now, I have no evidence to prove this or disprove it, but it's just a feeling from the little man, or one of the little men, and I've worked with an awful lot of artists who were, again, members of PRS and PPL. And I always have, sometimes we do have these conversations about, have you had a royalty check this quarter, and all of that sort of stuff. And my feeling is that not all of it gets, and I'm not saying there's any impropriety going on here at all. I think the little guy gets ignored to some extent. They're much more, what you've got to remember is these organisations are part of the music business. Now we know that the music business is literally full of sharks and always has been. And I think the little guy gets lost in all of that. They're not, having been a PRS member and a PPL member for 10 years, and my royalty checks from PRS are small and infrequent, and whenever I look at them I think, so this song got played. I mean, a good example is I had a song that got played. It was played somewhere in Latvia or somewhere in Eastern Europe, and they'd used the piece of music something like 300 times, and the royalty payment for that was about £1.60. For the next video, which is about PRS, if I can find the statement, I'm happy to share that with you. Now that can't be right, so I think the small guy gets ignored. They're much more concerned about the bigger guys, the big record companies, Sony and CBS and all of these big record labels, and certainly the big publishers. And the guy who's a small little label like ours, we get ignored, But that might, call me paranoid. And it would be really good if you've got any experience as a small independent record label or artist or composer. What's your experiences with these organisations? Because I have to say my experience, because having been on both sides of the fence, been a PRS PPL member for 10 years and running a retail music business for 7 years, my experience with these organisations isn't great. Give you a little an aside. We had a phone call about 4 years ago in our retail business from somebody at PRS demanding that we buy a PRS license. And now I was out of the premises at the time, so my colleague didn't quite know what the situation was. We were already using the Jamendo license, and so she said, I think we don't need one. And he was very adamant, saying that yes you do. And she asked him to call back when I was there, because I would take the call. And he did call back, did this person, and I categorically said to him, look, I'm a PRS member as a composer, but I know full well I do not need to have a PRS license in my premises, because I do not play the standard radio or music that comes from a PRS member. I play music, royalty-free music, which I purchased a license for from Jamendo. And he didn't, and he said, well, we'll come round and see. I said, well, you're quite welcome to come and visit any time, and that was the last we heard of it. Now, that sort of attitude isn't on. Bullying small retail premises or hairdressers or whatever it is into buying a license when they actually don't need to, and there is another alternative, isn't on. So my experience with these organisations isn't, as a composer, performer, and as a license holder, isn't great. But it'd be really great to know what your experiences are of these organisations. Let's watch the rest of the video, and then we'll round up.
I think it's important that eating at a restaurant is an authentic and enjoyable experience for our customers. And when we play music from the same region as our dishes originate from, well, that helps create the right atmosphere. And it's good to know that no matter what part of the world the music I play is from, the money still goes to the artists, the composers, the performers, and even the rights holders of that work. PPL and PRS for music were really helpful when I was buying my licenses to play music. To get my PPL license, I just went online to the PPL website and I filled in a short form. Then I spoke to a member of the team and they arranged it for me. To get my PRS for music license, I just called their team. So now, they both send me a reminder each year to renew them.
I'm not so sure from a buying a license point of view that you should have to be phoning them up for this. I think it should all be done online. I mean, I have to say, the Jamendo license, I actually filled it in on the website. We've had that license for those licenses for 7 years, and we've just renewed them every year. 1 year, I put the wrong address down, and I just dropped them an email and said, "Look, I'm really sorry. I just renewed the license," and I just put the wrong address down. And they, within a couple of hours, said, "Yeah, Ian, no problem at all. We'll get the new license certificate. It'll be on your portal in the next half hour." So you know that some of these other companies do just as well as, in theory, the PRS and PPL. But I mean, to be fair, I couldn't be asked to ring up PRS and PPL to ask them for a license. I would, in this day and age, would want to do it all online. One of the things that I found particularly confusing and annoying, and this goes for PPL and PRS, and we'll have a look at PRS in the next video, is registering a recording or a performance with them. I find their website is baffling, and I don't think I'm the only person here. They have got lots of help to videos, and I'm going to play a little bit of the start of the one which is how to register Repertoire, is what they call it, but just to give you a flavour of the sort of thing. Now this is an 8-9 minute video in total. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
Welcome to the PPL Repertoire registration journey of managing Repertoire. This is one of a series of tutorial videos produced to help guide you through the Register Repertoire system. Manage Repertoire is a separate area within Register Repertoire that gives you a single point of access to perform a variety of actions against your recordings, releases, and defaults.
I'm already losing the will to live. It is very confusing and annoying and could be simplified so much more. I know that these organisations need certain information, but how it's managed from both organisations is just so tedious. I mean, I spend longer putting my PRS data in. I mean, I'm literally doing an album. It can be a 4-hour process. It's ludicrous, really. Anyway, that's just one of my little gripes with it. I'll put the links to all of this stuff that we've put in the video down below. The other thing, one final point with this, I think these organisations should be combined. I don't think you should have two completely separate organisations, one for composers and one for performers or stroke record companies. They are both handling the same sort of we're handling the same licenses, they're handling the same organisations. I think there should be a combination, they should be combined, but that doesn't seem to be happening. You do need to, they are separate organisations, or there are clearly links with both, but that's just my part in short. Anyway, if you found this useful, hit the subscribe and circulate it, and ding that little bell if you want to be notified in the next video. Next video will be in a couple of weeks' time, and we will look a little bit more at the PRS side of it. So thanks very much for watching. If you like what I do, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers now, bye bye.